This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Take Control Books, the answers you need now from leading experts. Learn more and download yours at takecontrolbooks.com. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is the Talk to the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the road to Macworld just keeps rolling on. I don't know that we're going to get to everybody that's doing a conference session, but we're sure trying because there are just so many great people and so many great topics out there. This time around, though, we get to have a returning visitor. He was a speaker at last year's Macworld iWorld. This year he's doing a couple different sessions. Andrea Pejrolo from the Berklee School of Music. Andrea, it's great to see you again. Thanks for being back.
Hi, Chuck. Great to see you. I'm glad to be back, and hi to all the listeners of MacVoices.
Yeah, so Andrea, this time you've graduated from one session to two sessions.
Yeah, I just, more work for me. No, I'm really glad that I could do a couple of sessions. I also want to do a rapid fire session on the 5 minutes thing. Yeah. But usually in the last 2 years I focused on the iPad for music production, and this year I managed to have a session on the iPad and using the iPad to record your band live. But also I wanted to do a talk, to give a talk on the new Logic Pro X, since there are so many new features that are really worth digging into a little bit more. And so I managed to have these two sessions, one on how to use the iPad to record a live band, and one on the creative sequencing techniques with Logic Pro X. Yeah.
Andrea, you're with the Berklee School of Music. The Berklee School seems to have had a really great relationship with Macworld Expo, now Macworld iWorld, through the years. It seems like there's always someone from the school there representing it, talking about music and the whole creative process.
Yeah, there's always been I think the relationship between Berklee and Macworld has been a long one. I think there are maybe 10 or 10 years. 10 or 12 years. I would say that this year we scaled down a little bit. Usually there is a live band, and I think this year that's not going to happen. But so I'll be the only representative, if you want, from Berklee. But it's a great relationship because we at Berklee we use technology throughout our curriculum, and we keep pushing the technology, and that's why for me to have the iPad as a production tool is a key component, and so Berklee is always cutting edge on technology, and I think that's a great relationship. Our students, they all get a laptop, and as soon as they come in the first semester, I'm Macintosh, a Mac Pro. MacBook Pro, all these names, and so they start using Apple products right away. So it's so important for us to keep that link with cutting edge technology.
So let's take each one of your sessions one at a time. Using the iPad to record your band. I'm not even sure that 2 years ago you could have said this is a completely viable process, and now. Right. It is more than viable, and when you think about it, we were also enamored with being able to say, boy, look at my MacBook Pro and look at my iMac, and this is a studio in a box, and now all of a sudden you've got a studio in a tablet.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's really incredible actually how quickly things changed since last year. So last year I did a session on how to produce music, meaning how to start from an idea and sequence your project and then record a few live instruments. And the process was pretty kludgy. It was doable, but it was not really straightforward. But in 1 year, the software and the tools, the audio interfaces, the MIDI interfaces have been really, really expanded. Have been really expanded, and really there are so many tools these days that make the iPad a really valuable field recorder. So the whole idea of the session is to show how to use an iPad. I'm going to use an iPad mini Retina with 128 gigabyte some really high-end preamps that I use. They are packed in what's called a lunchbox, like an API lunchbox, and a good audio interface to just record multi-track band in a studio. So again, Berklee has some new studios coming up at the end of this semester, at the end of spring, and I'm going to test one of the studios. And the only thing I'm going to use are just microphones, an iPad mini, some good preamps, and an audio interface that is compatible with the iPad. So it's really a fascinating experience for me. I mean, to be able to pack everything in a backpack, basically, and just record high quality, obtain a high quality recording of a live band. It's pretty incredible, you know.
And again, there's so many things about this. You're the perfect guy to do this. It's one thing to maybe, you know, find a band who has kludged together a bunch of stuff and they're recording what they do. But you have the resources of Berklee School. You have the background and the knowledge. So you really are doing this as sort of a controlled, not experiment, but situation. So you can really help people understand where the goods, the bads, the uglies are.
Exactly. So, you know, whenever I do these sort of sessions, I really like to guide the audience through. First thing, is it doable? What is this tool for? You know, who can use it? Who shouldn't use it? And then I have the fortune of working with some great students. So I like to involve the students, and so I have some students writing a nice, some nice tracks, and then I co-produce them with the students. And so there's always some really fascinating collaboration going on. So I like to really show the process, and it's the Macworld and iWorld is a perfect place to just showcase this sort of. I mean, if we want to call it experiment, but this sort of ad hoc sessions, because there are questions that vary from very basic ones to really advanced ones. It's really fascinating to interact with the audience, because it's a great audience for this sort of talks.
Andrea, it would be one thing if the iPad were just a great field recorder. I mean, that would be enough. But you're going to examine mixing and actually producing the tracks again on the iPad, and that just blows me away.
Yeah, the whole idea is that everything will be done on the iPad, and as I said, the software has been evolving so quickly in the last year. I use mainly for this talk, I will use two software. One is Auria, which is like the multi-track recorder and editing tool and mixing tool for the iPad. I mean, they really brought the software. The company that makes Auria really brought the software to all other level in the last few months. So it's I can multi-track up to 48 tracks. I can mix and do all the effects and editing that I basically could do in Pro Tools. What I love about the iPad for these sort of things is that using my fingers to do audio editing, it's really, really great. It really puts me in contact with the music. There's nothing else between you and the music. I mean, you touch the waveform, you move it, you do a fade in, fade out, you cut the audio. When I do that on a Mac, you have the mouse, you have the keyboard, you have maybe a control surface. I mean, they're all things that to me come between me and the music. So I love to do it on the iPad. And the other piece of software, which has not been released yet, but I'm collaborating with a couple of software companies, but Positive Grid is one that I'm going to paste the link here. It's one that I've been working with. They allow me to beta test this new software, which is called Mastering, which is a software just for mastering. So I'm really looking forward to use that tool, which will be released sometimes in late March, actually early April, and to really have that tool for mastering, which is a specific software for mastering on the iPad, and it's really, really great. So I love all these companies that try to really come out with professional software for the iPad. I also will use some of their software for a amp simulator for guitar. So the guitarist will use the iPad to also create amp simulators, and I mean it's really fascinating to use all these tools. I love the fact that in some way you are a little more restricted what you can do on the iPad, but I love to have those boundaries because it kind of like allow you to focus your creativity instead of having everything at your disposal. So as long as the sound is good and the tools are professional, I mean, I love to have this sort of like a small boundaries to play with. So I think it's really fascinating. And I mean the price too. I mean the price point. I mean you can have a really good studio, mobile studio for a fraction of the cost of what used to be. So it's really great.
I'm really intrigued by your comments about being able to touch the music, to have nothing between you, that it doesn't get in your way. And I've heard some people talk about the loss of the analog process. And you make it sound like it's almost the return of the analog process. You're manipulating digital material, but you're doing so in kind of an analog way. Is that a fair observation?
Well, that's a good point. I never thought about it that way, but it's almost going back to finger painting, if you want. I have a 6-year-old daughter that loves to paint and to do finger painting. That's sort of the same thing. It's like instead of like working off a pencil or something that is in between you and your creativity, it's like really gets it really comes down to getting your hands dirty and just touch the audio and find the perfect spot and scrub the audio and hear the perfect spot, almost like we used to do with tape. We used to slice tape, so you have your hands on the music. So yeah, I mean that's a good, I like that analogy in a way. It's a digital digital way of doing what we used to do on tape. Yeah.
Andrea, unfortunately, we both fall into the same trap. We compare things with the way it used to be. More importantly, we talk about the price points, and all this practical stuff. How about the learning curves with all this? Is this something that is really difficult to do, or if you are a musician or musically trained or inclined, is this a pretty easy technical setup to set up, and is it pretty easy software to learn?
Well, I guess there are multiple levels, and like anything, you can do it in a very simple way. I mean, you can take GarageBand and record a drum kit, maybe with just 2 microphones, and so and maybe just using the preamps that come with your audio interface. You get a simple 2-in, 2-out audio interface, like from Apogee, for example. Sound great. The setup is fairly simple. So I can see how that is a great tool for people to get into the recording. I think the iPad is definitely easier as a platform than a Mac or a full PC. So I can see how a young student or a young kid can just say, "Hey, I can record my drum kit." 2 microphones and the iPad and the audio interface, and that's it. These 3 components. And that's it. But what I like is that then you can bring it to all other level by, for example, having an audio interface with the one I use is a Focusrite Scarlett that has 4 mic pre's built in. It has 4 more input that I use through a Lunchbox, and then you can add 8 more microphones with 8 more preamps if you have a light pipe connection to another audio interface. So you can kind of explode it to all other level. But I like that you can keep it very simple. And the software, again, if you use GarageBand or some 2-track recorder, it's pretty basic. But then you can get into Cubases, which I love as a sequencer, or Auria. And Auria is a complex program. I mean, if you're not used to do anything with audio editing or multi-track recording, I mean, the learning curve can be pretty steep. But you have all these options, and the price of this product is is incredible. I mean, Audio is like $50 for 48 tracks with some decent effects. I mean, it's not going to replace Pro Tools anytime soon, but if you think about that, the iPad just is what, 4 or 5 years old. I mean, we're way way into a exponential curve. I mean, it's in other 5 years, I don't know. Are we going to still use, desktop machines? I don't know. It's a question. But I like to push the edge and see how far we can go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is fun, and I think it's great that you're doing this. Again, you're doing it with kids who are also getting a chance to grow up with that technology. I would imagine that their relationship with the technology and the techniques educates you as to what can be done because they don't have the biases that you may bring to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, just the what you were saying about the tape. I mean, for them, tape, they don't even really know what it is, and even a mixing board. Even though if we try to kind of give them that perspective, but it's something kind of like a old piece of gear. I mean, they are born. I would say probably the generation that is in college now. I mean, had some experience with mixing boards, but I mean, I see my 6-year-old daughter. I mean, she uses a mouse, but for her must look like an ancient technology. I mean, she wants to just grab and touch, anything on the screen, on the TV, and sort of thing. So, and she learns the iPad like in no time. I mean, so this is like we're running 100 miles an hour towards that sort of interface and that sort of interaction with software. And there's really no going back at this point. So it's nice to be on that cutting edge and to see, how every year the students that come in lose a little bit more contact of what we grew up with, and you see really this shift towards new graphic user interface and different ways of thinking about how to use a piece of software. So it's interesting, it's very fascinating. Keeps us young, definitely.
And it blows me away that we're sitting here using your 6-year-old daughter as a barometer for this stuff. I mean, 6 years old, that says it all about where this is going and how much it's changed.
It's amazing. I mean, so the school where she goes, she's in first grade, and they have she's lucky to be by chance in a classroom where they have a one-to-one iPad, and they use the iPad constantly. I mean, she tells me, you should get this application to write a book, or this application to. It's like it's really it's really fascinating. So it's very interesting. I mean, that's where it's going. I mean, or it's gone already. So I think in creative worlds, like even drawing, I mean, we're already there. For music, there's been a little bit more of a slower curve, maybe, but I think things are really picking up. So
that's great. She's going to take our jobs in a couple of years, probably, before she's 10.
I'm telling you, it's it's scary.
This edition of Mac Voices is supported by Take Control Books, the answers you need now from leading experts. Tired of an ever-increasing cable TV bill? Want to simplify your video life with a remote control and interface the whole family can actually understand? Then you need to get an Apple TV. And to get the most out of Apple's set-top box, you need Take Control of Apple TV by Josh Centers. The Apple TV packs a lot of power and sophistication into its small package. Did you know that you can customize the icon grid on the main screen, beam audio and video from your iPhone, iPad, and Mac to your big screen, and stream music to compatible speakers anywhere in your home? From listening to iTunes Radio, watching video from Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, or displaying your photos, Josh explains everything in easy to understand and follow terms. And if you want to dig deeper, Josh can take you there too, explaining how to set up a Plex server with your Apple TV to get even more content delivered over the internet. Take control of Apple TV today and tap the power of your Apple TV by tonight. You can hear Josh talk about his book and why it's for everyone from the couch potato to teachers to business people on MacVoices number 14044. Take Control of Apple TV is available from Take Control Books right now, this very second. What are you waiting for? Take Control Books, the answers you need now from leading experts. Thanks to Take Control Books for their support of MacVoices. Well, let's flip to the next session and sort of the other side, because Logic Pro 10 is a heavy-duty program, and so I find the two sessions very interesting that you're doing them both. And we're sitting here talking about how powerful the iPad is, and then we're about to talk about how powerful Logic 10 is. So what is this session going to encompass, and where does it fit into just what we've been talking about?
Yeah, so when I thought about this session, I didn't want to do a classic, okay, here are the basic things about Logic. I mean, I like these tools. I like Logic in particular for the creative tools and features that it has. So I'm going to focus my speech on three main areas, and the sequencing, the mixing, and the sound design, and so I'm going to show a couple of what I kind of refer to as advanced techniques. Not too much because they are complicated, but just to show how you can think outside the box when to use this sort of tools. So just to give an example, I'm going to talk about how to record your own and use your own impulse responses for the convolution reverb that comes with Logic. So it's something that it sounds, wow, this is like a really advanced, very complicated things. But as we know, Apple has this great gift of making things that are really complex, fairly simple, and actually very simple. So there's a utility that comes with Logic Pro that allows you to record an impulse response and deconvolute that response and just create your own reverb out of a real room. And it's super simple. I mean, it takes really 10 minutes to learn. Then again, you can bring it to all different levels, but using that technique, you can also, instead of input a real impulse response from a real room, you can just input a loop. So you can input any audio waveform. And so now you create a reverb that is based on a loop that you had. And that's a very creative way to kind of think outside the box. So, these sort of things, I really like these sort of things when it comes to Logic. It's one of the programs that really allows you to do these sort of things. For example, I'm going to talk about how to use the new virtual drummer that kind of, understands where to play a verse, a chorus, and how to automate all the different parameters. So, I'm going to focus on this kind of like really cool and really hip techniques that, most likely not everybody has a chance to seen or experience, and I hope that will inspire the audience to, hey, go home and check them out. That's sort of the goal. So those are things that are so new and kind of can, at the moment, they're not available on platforms like the iPad. So I want to focus on these sort of things, like also advanced quantization, to make your tracks sound more realistic, your rhythmic tracks more realistic. So, all these sort of things that's like, they're very interesting, I think,
So it sounds like this session is going to be a bit more for the serious musician, the professional musician, the advanced music producer, to learn some of the new techniques and things in Logic Pro 10. Is that right?
Well, I think I like to have. I really like to explain this concept that seem very complicated, and they can be. But actually explain this concept in a very simple way, so that even the guy that just started Logic can use them, and they're not really that complicated. But then the guy that's been using Logic for years and years might get interested and say, wow, oh yeah, I can really bring my production skills to another level. So these are things that can be used sort of like in a modular way. So you don't need to learn how a reverb is made from scratch and all the different parameters. It's something that you can sort of just learn how to do it and then take it from there, So it's very modular. So there's nothing that requires a lot of previous knowledge. So I will try to kind of make it available for at least, medium to advanced producer and musicians.
It's a point that I like to make with pretty much every session that we talk about. Even if this may be a little above your head, go, because you need to stretch yourself, and that's how you learn, and that's how you break into new areas. If you already know something about it, go anyway, because you may learn. Pardon me. You may learn something that you didn't know, or you may know enough to get you by, but this is going to take it to a whole new level. I just feel like every session of Macworld, there's so much stuff that, even if it's not your area of expertise or even main area of interest, you go, you expose yourself, and you suddenly find yourself with a new tool in the toolkit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like the interaction between people in the audience where they start giving advice to each other, during the presentation, or they start, kind of like interacting. And I think it's a great way to just know more about all these things. And we are kind of bombarded by the free tutorial that you find online on YouTube and blah, blah, which are great. But to me, the advantage of being there and ask a question and, get an answer, it's priceless. And then having a chance, maybe to just stick around 10 minutes after the presentation and ask another question. I always have, tons of questions at the end. And I think it's a great tool, I mean, I still believe in interacting with real people, in the same room or even like this, but like, face to face and having a conversation. I think, to me, is, as a teacher too, is invaluable. It's so, yeah, it's always a lot of fun to do these sort of things.
And like every other instructor there, or presenter there, I should say, I know you're completely approachable, and if people hold you in the hallway for an hour afterwards, that's great, because it means that they're interested in something you're interested in, and you're going to end up, both of you, benefiting from the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always tell, to this presentation, I said, whoever is here is going to get a lifetime warranty. Meaning that, you have my contacts, and if you want to drop me an email and contact me if you have any questions, I'll be happy to, to just answer or get in touch with you. And I still get people that attended other conferences, other talks I gave, and asked me, oh, can you comment on this track I did, or can we meet in New York, blah blah, if you come there. I mean, it's great. I really love that interaction. That's why I do these sorts of things. I mean, to me it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, there's something about this community in it, and it's not just the creative community, and it's not just the tech community. It's in that intersection of the two that Apple and the Macintosh and now the iPad seem to play so well, that it's so attractive and so much fun, because everyone we talk to about this stuff has a passion for it, and that's always been the key word, and we've talked about that on the show before. You're a passionate person. Every single presenter is passionate about what they're presenting. Nobody's just sort of showing up to talk, and that just makes, I think, Macworld, iWorld what it is, the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I love to go to other talks, and I already have a list of things I hope to be able to attend, and so I'm really looking forward. And I think you are presenting too, right? Are you presenting?
Yeah, I've got a couple of presentations. Yeah. Okay,
so yeah, I'll be there, and so I love to just having that community with all these people that are expert in their fields, and just to have everybody in the same building for a few days. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. So.
Well, let's wrap up, because I did not know about the rapid fire session. What are you going to be talking about in 5 minutes or less?
So that's another side of my geekiness, if you want. I love to. Well, it's always related to music, but I love to play around with the Arduino platform, and so I built this tool, which is basically a baton, like a conductor to conduct a DAW, which is digital performer, and it's built on an Arduino board with a nunchuk that I kind of tricked out. So I'm using the accelerometer on the nunchuk to conduct my sequencer. I'm gonna send you a link for your listeners so they can check it out. It's on Vimeo. And so basically, in 5 minutes, I will demo this tool that I use. I mean, actually, I built it because I really use it when I do orchestral mockups. It's just great. When I want to give that real tempo variation for my okay, let me see where it is. Oh yeah, here. For my orchestral mockups. So that's what I use. Let me find the link here.
So let me get this straight. This is a tricked out nunchuck that is acting as a conducting device for DAW.
Yeah, it really works well with digital performer. I use different DAWs, but usually I use. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. Usually I use with I use digital performer for orchestral mockup simply because I love the way it handles MIDI and tempo changes a little bit better. When I do more beat based or where more experimental tracks, I definitely use Logic. So I'm kind of like and sometimes I use Pro Tools but here's the link you can give to your listeners, and I can show you a sec. If you hold on a second, I'm just going. All right, so this is the device. This is the regular nunchuck that I connected to. Inside here, there is a Arduino Uno. So I connected it through a 9-pin connector. So it's a little bit sturdier. There is a MIDI out here, and there is just a LED here that tells me the sensitivity that I can change through one of the buttons here, and the beat making. So I can just conduct by moving my nunchuck. And the secret sauce is really the software that I wrote. I mean, the hardware is it's just off the shelves, but it's how to detect each different movement and having different sensitivities of. So that you can do something very slow or something more, up tempo. So it's a lot of fun. You can check out the video. I go through the whole demo, and so I will have 5 minutes to show all this stuff. It's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Okay, you got me. You taking your geekiness to a whole new level. No question about it.
I love the Arduino platform. I mean, it's I'm really a self. I didn't study programming in school or anything like that, so I'm very, as we said before, I'm very passionate about this stuff, and in my spare time, which is very little, I do this sort of thing. So it's kind of like a crazy mad scientist sort of thing.
Okay, so another side of the geekiness, mad scientist. I'm afraid where we may be going next. Well, it sounds like great sessions, and I'll have all the links to everything you just sent me in the show notes so folks can go and just find out a little bit more about it. But anybody that's interested in music really needs to go and attend these sessions, and even if they're not, go and attend. They'll expand your mind a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to be there, and I look forward to seeing you there. Yeah.
Same here. It's going to be yet another great Macworld iWorld. I'm glad you'll be part of it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah.
Right. We will see you in San Francisco. Thanks so much for the time, Andrea.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Bye.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We'll be at Macworld, iWorld. Andrea, me, a whole lot of other people that you've been hearing from here on the road to Macworld. We hope you will join us. You need to join us. If not, you're going to regret it. Believe me, you're going to regret it. Until the next time, thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.